Hello, I'm Niels Christensen, and welcome to Kitco News and our continuing coverage of the Mines and Money Online Connect Virtual Mining Conference. Lockdown measures are starting to ease, and that's good news for junior explorers in the mining sector. Here to talk about his thoughts of the health of the sector is Auryn Bebek, Executive Chairman of Auryn Resources. Ivan, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show today.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to be back.
You're back to work in Peru. What do you think is the health of the mining sector? Are we coming out of COVID strong? Does a higher gold price make up for the lack of activity we've seen in the last 3 months?
Well, sure. There's a lot of things going on. As we've noted, we've gone from a holding company as of June 22nd back to being an exploration company in Peru because our COVID restrictions are lifted. We have access to most of our projects, and I think a lot of mining and exploration companies are going to be experiencing the same. But you have to look at the consequence of the pause that COVID created. A lot of major mines were put on care and maintenance due to risks, and some are still being shut down today for it. So we're going to see some supply interruptions. There's been no shortage of QE that has started, not just for COVID, but for the financial crisis that kind of happened at the same time. And I think the metals, gold, silver, copper, I think they're on an unstoppable trajectory that's going to go on for a few years. So you ask about the health of the industry, people are starting to make money again. People are starting to express interest as shareholders. If you're not long this business right now, you should make a point of learning quickly and starting to get some positions. We are in the very early innings of one of the biggest bull markets that we'll see in the last 30 or 40 years that had an accelerant, which was COVID, and not just because of the pause, interruption supplies, but more so because of the financial state and unfavorably globally of the various economies. They're going to have to print huge amounts of money. So I think this is barely the start. The mining market has never looked better and started to feel better as we're seeing now, and prices are showing that across the board.
TSX Venture Index, we've seen actually a 64% rally from its lows. And just listening to your comments here, you think this is more than sustainable?
Oh, I think this is way more than sustainable. I mean, we went through a decade of there being very minimal value in the TSX companies, even the producers. A lot of them were trading at ridiculously low values in a world where certain metals are getting a lot harder to find, and both base and precious metals, and we're going to need a lot more going forward. The world got bigger and the mining market got smaller. So when you look at the current metal prices and you look at the economics behind some of these mines, if you can look more than a few months in front of you and think 2 or 3 years down the road, and imagine when supply and demand becomes a factor, imagine the back result of all this QE. This is a tiny sector. And if you compare us to the tech business, we fit in one tech company. When the world catches on of the importance of metals, or has a bit of a desire to own them for obvious reasons of inflation and quantitative easing and whatnot, when the world picks up, this industry's tiny. I think we go up multiples or magnitudes from where we are. So I think the 64% is more of a recovery, not a rally that we've seen so far, if that makes sense. I think the big rally is about to come here in the coming two to 3 years. I think we'll start to see it really take lift.
Actually, and your company actually could really benefit from higher gold prices. I mean, your PEA for your BC project, based on $1,380 gold, I do believe. What does this environment do for your projects in the pipeline?
So we have 7 in our portfolio. We have 3 tier 1 exploration swings that would fall in the category of maiden discoveries, both in gold, copper, and silver, actually all 3, which we think are the 3 best metals to be in globally right now for the projections. The value of something like Homestake, 1620 PEA at 1620 gold's around 1760 as we do this interview, was about 173 million US after 5% discount after tax. So it's NPV. So it's a pretty substantial quarterback of our value in our portfolio that we offer. But we've spent the last 4 years and $100 million trying to go find these big discoveries that would make a difference in a bear market or in a bull market, in any market. The kinds that kind of give us those legendary returns. We're trying to find a mine that will fall in the top 20 mines globally. And so we've actually got to the mature state of where we're able to possibly do that. And that's going to come through for us in the next 12 months. So I think for us, the prize of finding something big is worth way more in a bull market. We have 3 different tier 1 swings to do that. We've talked openly, and we say this, the best way to unlock the value that we think we're largely missing in our share price would be to separate these opportunities, possibly spin out 1 or 2 of these assets as we go into the bull market. And something we've waited for the last 5 years, as we spent the hard time and money to go get these things ready for big discovery. We've waited for a big change in the commodity pricing, and the trajectory we're on is not a blip. And this is not a short-term rally. This is something that's going to have legs. So this is the best time. It will benefit our shareholders considerably well with what we have and what we create here going forward.
Wanted to ask you this. I mean, report came out last week, raised a lot of eyebrows. Wood Mackenzie saying that need to spend $27 billion in the ground by 2025 just to keep up with 2019 gold production levels. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, do you see, what does having that much money invested in the ground mean for exploration companies like yourself?
Well, first off, we're one of the most aggressive exploration companies globally. And having spent and raised $100 million, we've looked at a lot of things and we're exploring some things for big discoveries. I'd say the $27 billion, the money is going to be the easy part. But you can't buy time with money, right? And all the easy mines, if you look at the last 20 years, bull market, they spent about $20 billion has been spent in exploration. Anything sticking out of the ground that was an obvious discovery has been found. You have to go into odd corners of the earth now. You have to come up with new ideas. So it's great that the money's going to come, but I don't know where all that's going to be spent. I think there's going to be a lot more risk in a lot of people's portfolios to go and find these mines, which will be great when you find them. It makes discovery worth a lot more. In our case, we like to think we have the head start there because we have 4 years and $100 million spent with some very smart people to get to the forefront of the discoveries that the market's going to need. That would be very impactful. But for the $27 billion coming in, I mean, I think a lot of greenfields, a lot of early stage stuff gets drilled. The odds are really, really against discoveries. It's going to be tough, but the reward will be spectacular when it finally gives. So I don't know where the money gets spent. There isn't a lot of good companies worth buying that have those kind of big, large scale discoveries that can make a difference. It's going to be tough. So I think excited that there's money coming in, excited if we make that discovery. A little bit concerned that there's not enough good swings out there. We're going to be rolling some dices out there, and there'll be a lot of money trying to force discovery. So we'll see what happens.
Is money coming into the sector? Is we always sort of talk about, we've always talked about the dearth of capital for especially exploration companies, and I'm sort of wondering, companies sort of impacted by COVID not being able to get some of the government money that other sectors have been able to get. So do you think money is coming back? Are the generalists and retail guys paying more attention to gold and silver?
Oh, absolutely. I think if you look at a handful of companies and their share price performances, including ours, everyone's gone up between 30 and a few 100%. And I think that's the first sign of money coming in. When you see financings get announced, they're getting closed within hours of being priced and announced and bought deals. I don't know the exact amount that's been raised so far, but the one thing COVID has done is kept everybody at home in front of the computer with nothing much to do except for to speculate on the next bull market, whether it be cannabis, tech, or mining, which it most clearly is mining now. That's going to be the driver. So I think a lot of people have had a chance to take a breather from other markets, specifically the Dow and equities, and say, well, what about mining? Should I be buying this? And people are starting to make that move. So I like to think it's 10 times easier to raise money today than it was 6 months ago. And I think every mining executive would agree with me. And, I think it's definitely started. It's not rushing in. This is still not the fun part that's going to get everybody to the ridiculous valuations. That's coming, and I'm glad it's not happening that quickly, but it's happening quick enough. If you have something worth drilling, if you have something worth financing, you're going to get capital from very good sources sooner than later.
So last question, obviously, things are easing up surrounding COVID, sort of lost 3 months. What's on the plate for you guys at Auryn? I mean, what's your plan for the rest of the year?
So first and foremost, getting access in Peru. We've talked a lot about Sombrero as one of the top swings globally to find not just a copper gold mine, but now you'll see soon, we have some huge gold targets in our southern district there that we haven't spoke much about at all yet. And we're talking world-class kind of gold kind of swings. At our Curry Bio project, which you and I spoke about a year ago in San Francisco, we had these outstanding silver numbers and outstanding gold numbers, and everybody looked at them and didn't know what to make of them. The biggest outcome there so far has been we realized there's more cover on that deposit potentially than there originally was thought to be, which means the system is probably a lot stronger than what we're seeing, which is outstanding because it's on the world of these big trends. So what we're doing in the next few months, we're going to ramp up pretty seriously in Peru. We're going to complete permitting for Sombrero. We're hoping to have a drill turning in Q4, and we're going to get through targeting and permitting the same way we plan to do that for Curibaya as well. The Canadian assets, we can't work on Committee Bay this year, although we've made our biggest advancements ever in targeting due to COVID. However, we're going to get really amped up to get into a huge program next year there. I think there's, to be fair, I've said it earlier in the interview, if we can decide whether spinning our company out now is the optimal time to do it or later, I think that's a decision we're going to really push in the next few months. So hopefully, in the best case scenario, we can deliver 3 different shares to shareholders, a pure gold share in Canada, a big silver swing in Peru, as well as a big copper gold district. If we can deliver these 3 things to investors by year end, I think we would have started this bull market running properly with some great opportunities to make those legendary returns.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed your optimism. It's been a long time coming for the mining sector. It's just sad that it's taken a pandemic to sort of get to this level.
Everyone asked what the magic trigger was going to be for the mining market to come back. And I remember debating this with some of the smartest guys in the industry. We all knew that things were lined up from a financial perspective, world economies, QE, negative rates were coming, but we didn't know what the trigger was going to be. And I think by fact and event, we now know no one could have predicted this specific trigger. But hold on, this is going to be an incredible ride. And this is a market where you get paid to be an optimist versus a pessimist again. And that's where we're going to do really well for our shareholders.
Ivan, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching Kitco News. For all our coverage of the Minds and Money Online Connect conference, go to kitco.com. Stay safe and stay healthy.